Okay, continuing our coverage of SVG, we're going to explore animation. It turns out there are two ways to do animation in SVG. Declarative animation uses the XML markup, which turns out to be part of another XML dialect called SMILE, Synchronized Multimedia something language. And then the other way of doing it is you can script it with JavaScript. So if you're in my client-side class, later on we'll look at how to use the JavaScript to do this. But if you're in fundamentals, our first class, you can do this declarative animation. And this presentation will cover the declarative animation. Okay, let's go to Dreamweaver. And this is a pretty elaborate example, so it might be a long video, we'll see. So I've started out here. I have my SVG 800 by 800 canvas that I've been using. I have a circle here. It's centered at 200 200, has a radius of 50, a stroke of black. Of course the stroke is the line the circle will be drawn with, which has a width of 3, and it's filled with yellow. And I've set the opacity to 0.8, which is slightly transparent. The reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to end up at the end with a bunch of things on the screen, and they're all going to be going across one another and that, and it looks cooler. So the simplest way to do animation is we have an Animate node, and notice how this node is embedded within the element it's going to affect. And then we have the attribute name, which can be any one of the attributes from that element. In this case, it's the radius. Then we have a duration, which according to the documentation, the default is seconds. But all the examples actually have the S. So 5S is 5 seconds. Then we have a series of values, and notice the syntax for this. It's a quoted list separated by semicolons. And over the 5-second duration, it will evenly space these values out. One thing I've done deliberately here is I've created this so it starts and ends on the same value, which is going to give the animation some smoothness. If I had a different value here, what would happen when the animation started over is it would jump and change. So this just makes it run real smoothly. And then the repeat count here is indefinite. That can be a number, so you can tell it how many times to repeat. Indefinite means that it'll just continue to run. So think about what's going on here. We're going to take this radius. It's going to start at 50, then go to 100, then 150, then back to 100, then back to 50 over 5 seconds. So let's see how that looks. And you can see it's already playing as soon as I open the browser. The page is just playing continually. So basically that's the first way to do the animation, and I can animate any of these values. Let me go ahead and we'll go through the next example. So I'll go ahead and uncomment that here. So now I have a rectangle, and it's at 300, 150, and it has a rounded corners with a radius of 25. And then its width is 200 and its height is 100. It has a fill of blue and stroked with a red line with a width of 3 and again opacity of 8. Now notice that I have two animate attribute names in here. I'm sorry, two animate elements in here. And again, because they're embedded in the rectangle, they apply to the rectangle. The first one is going to affect the width. The second one is going to affect the height. I've set them again to be the 5 seconds, so all this stuff is sort of synchronized because it's all running at the same cycle. And then these numbers for the width and the height are inversions. So take a quick look at this. So the width is going to start at 100, grow to 250, and then back to 100. The height is inverted. It'll start at 250, which is the highest value for this, and go down as the other goes up. So hopefully you can kind of visualize in your mind what that's going to look like. So let's take a look. And now when I refresh this, we'll see our new value there. Whoops. Oh, I forgot to save it, didn't I? Never helps if you forget to do that. So let me save and then back and reload. It doesn't matter, but I'm using Firefox right now to view these. I tested them. They do work in Chrome real well. I usually don't bother to do much testing beyond that. I mean, if I was going to deploy it, I'd worry about IE, of course. So a couple of things here. Again, you can see how the width and the height are both changing. And also I wanted you to kind of look at the opacity and see how that worked. Okay? Well, let's see what else we can do with this. So again, I'm going to go ahead and grab my little comment out here so I can just show this one step at a time. Bring it on down here. And now we have an ellipse, and looks like we're doing the same kind of animation here. So whoops, I'm sorry. So actually on this we have, just like we have width and height, we have the radius of the X and the radius of the Y. And so this is very similar to the first one, but we're playing with the radius. So let's go ahead and just show that. I wonder if I remember to save that this time. Nope. Alright, Control S, back to Firefox, reload. There we go. And again, they're all kind of in sync. So you can see that they all start at the same time, and they all have the same 5-second cycle. And so, of course, that has some ramifications for when you're using this stuff. Once more, I'd like you to look at the opacity and how that works. I think that we did not set the opacity. Oh yeah, I guess I did. Okay, so they all have opacity of 0.8. Alright, so not a lot new there, but it's kind of cool when you play with the ellipse like that. Let's continue here with our example, and you know what? I bet I'll remember to save it this time. There we go. Control S. So now we have ellipse again, but notice now instead of an animate attribute name, I have animate transform, and then the attribute name for that is transform. I'm not sure what all the options are for this. It might prove later on that we can do the skew and the scale and all that here. I just haven't gotten that far with this, but that's a good bet. So we're going to rotate this. This one is going to run for 10 seconds. And notice the from and to. The first value is the degrees. So it's going to start from 0 and rotate 360. So basically over the rotation, in 10 seconds it'll rotate completely around. Now the other thing to note here is the 2 points. So 200, 400 is repeated in both cases. That's the point of the rotation. And I think what's going on here is, yes, that's the center point for this value. So this is not going to move, it's going to rotate in place. So let's see how that looks. Back to Firefox and then reload. So here's the new ellipse, and again, because the center for the rotation is the same as the center for the ellipse, it simply rotates in place. It's not rotating around a center point in the sense of it moving. Okay? Now, in a second, I'll show you one that rotates around an external point, and so that one will actually orbit. And it's kind of cool the way we set that up. I think you'll like that. So Control copy. Let's go ahead and let's see. Oh yeah, and we want to get the circle in here too. I'll show you why here. You kind of like that, I think. So again, Control S to save. And then let's look at this. So in our first one, the ellipse was rotating around its own center point. In the second one, we rotate the a new ellipse around a different point, which happens to correspond to the center point of that yellow circle that I drew up here. Okay, so you'll sort of like this, I think. And then I added an extra circle, and that's going to show the actual path that it takes. So let's just look at the values here. Again, it's an Animate Transform node, attribute name transform, type equals rotate, this time 10 seconds, 0 to 360, and then a common point, 200, 200, 200, 200, but that is not the center point for this particular ellipse. Okay? And then this circle here is centered on the center point that the rotation is using, and then it has a radius 100, a stroke of red, a stroke width of 4. Notice this, stroke dash array equals 5, 10. I don't know if we saw that in SVG. I've been doing videos in the canvas too. That's going to create a line style where the first part is the line. That's going to be a 5-pixel line followed by a 10-pixel space, and then it'll use that to draw the line instead of drawing a solid line for a border. So this is going to draw a circle with a dashed line as the perimeter, and I turned the fill off so it's transparent, and that just happens to correspond to the path that this smaller ellipse is going to take as it's rotated. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll reload, and there you go. So here's the new ellipse, which is being rotated, and the center point is actually the center point of the yellow circle. And then I added an extra circle, which is not animated at all, which is just showing the path of the rotation of the ellipse. Pretty cool, huh? You're starting to see you can do a lot of stuff with this, I hope. I'm excited about it here and hope I have some time to kind of explore it more. Okay, so what we've seen so far is where we've animated the attributes, and then we've done a transform attribute animation as well. So if you're an old Flash person, you know that we have what are called motion tweens and shape tweens. So basically what we've done so far kind of corresponds to the old Flash shape tweens, where we change the parameters of our shapes. Now we're going to look at a couple of motion tweens, and actually let's do them one at a time here. So is there, nope, I only have the one there. That's right. I had one with a triangle, and I was having some trouble getting that to follow a path that I liked. Okay, so let's look at how this works. We're going to create a circle which is relatively small. It's at 2020 and has a radius of 20. 2020 is going to be up near the left-hand corner, of course. It has a stroke of black. That black has a width of 3. It has an indigo fill, and again it has an opacity. It's slightly transparent at 0.8. Notice this, animate motion, path, which you should recognize, duration 10 seconds, and then repeat count indefinite. Again, I've been using the repeat count indefinite all along, so everything just keeps rolling. Now let's just look at the path for a second here. So we're going to move to a location 50-50, which is sort of up here in the left-hand quadrant. And then we're going to do a line to 500-500, which is down here in the right lower quadrant. And then we're going to do a line to 550, which should be straight up here in the upper right quadrant. And then we have a Z which says go back. So that's going to kind of draw a shape that goes sort of like a figure 8, although it'll be flattened without any curved path. Let me save this before I forget yet again. And let's go ahead and take a look at this. So there it goes. So again, the path comes down, over, back up on the diagonal, and then the Z finishes it and it returns to the start. So kind of cool stuff here, huh? So you can definitely do some basic animation, and this is called declarative animation because we're defining it in the XML markup. There is a way to do some interactive things in the XML without JavaScript, but I'm not sure we'll get into that in the courses I teach or not. I'll probably, though, do some more animation here, and then for the client-side course where we do the JavaScript, I'll show you some JavaScript animation with SVG as well. So again, I hope you're enjoying the videos. I'm enjoying making them, and these technologies are a lot of fun to play with, as you can tell. I really